So are there any questions on the call to action? It's really very simple, and yet it's probably the most overlooked part of most presentations. Would you like to come up?
No, I wanted to ask a question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
You do the problem, then you give a short thing about the solution, and then you go into the evidence after?
Yeah, here's the sort of the mindset behind that. It's sort of a general teaching formula where you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And in a presentation, especially if it's a business presentation, people want to know where you're going right away. They want to know where you're going right away because you've only got maybe 10, 15 seconds to capture their attention. So your statement of the problem has to make them go, I get it. After that, if you don't grab them in the first 10 or 15 seconds, now you're working to win them back because they're starting to drift away from you. So you got to get them in 10 seconds. And so a really solid statement of the problem where they can see it in their head and they can make itself like a part of their story. Now you've got their attention. But then you don't want to hold them there too long. You've got to let them know where you're going. And so you give them a quick statement of the solution. This is where we're going. And then you spend the rest of your presentation proving it, which is sort of our next step. We'll talk about that in 1 second. Yes?
Would you not then put evidence and so on before you call to action?
Yes. And that's what we're going to do. And that's why we jump to the bottom of the sheet and went straight to the call to action. Because sometimes we don't have time to give all the evidence. And if you're at a networking group or something and you've got 60 seconds, people aren't really that interested in your evidence at that point. They want to know, what can you do for me and how do I get it? And that's what we talked about this before. That question, what do you do? Somebody asks you, what do you do? Who's the question about? Yeah, you ask me what I do. That question is not about me. It's about you. Because what you're saying is, what can you do? What do you do that I want? What do you got? What have you got that's good for me? And so I've got this 1 minute of presentation time to let you know who I am, what I do, and how you can avail yourself. Statement of a problem, statement of solution, and the call to action. Now, if I have more time and I'm doing an actual presentation, that's where the evidence part comes in. That's where the middle section is, and this is what we're going to do in our next session. And so you'll notice I've got 3 spots on there on that sheet. 3 spots for supporting points and evidence. And I'll just take 1 more minute to round this up because we want to take a break. But when you're designing the bulk of your presentation, remember what role you play. There are 3 roles that you can play in a presentation. I don't know if anybody remembers what they were from Spice Up Your Speaking. What are they?
The journalist?
Yeah, journalist is number 2. Expert is number 1. And philosopher. Philosopher is number 3. So when you're giving your presentation, what is your role? And that's going to define what your bulk is in your presentation. Am I an expert? And an expert speaks from what?
Experience.
From experience. Your experience is then your evidence. So if you're positioning yourself as an expert, you make your point, and then you give your experience. If your position is that of a reporter, what's your evidence?
Others, or the literature, for example.
Yeah, something you've researched, or something you've seen, or something you've read, or something that you can verify, not necessarily of your own experience. And if you're a philosopher, what's your evidence?
Opinion.
Yeah, it's your opinion or your creative spin on something. So if I'm going to use make a supporting point in my presentation and provide it with evidence, I might do something like this in my presentation. I might talk about how, everybody has a story and it could change lives, but nobody, people don't have the skills and the confidence they need and all of that. And I'll go through a statement of my problem, statement of my solution, and then I might do something like this as a supporting point and evidence. I might say, when you share your story with the world in an impactful way, you change the way people see themselves. That's my point. You change the way people see themselves. And about 3 months ago, I was standing at the back of the room here, and I'm watching my friend Bob up here speak. And he put his papers down, and he stepped out from the podium, and he profoundly shared his story with the room. And to a standing ovation, he changed the way people saw themselves. That's my evidence. So what's my posture in that particular scenario? Am I an expert, am I a reporter, or am I a philosopher?
Expert.
I could be an expert. I see myself in that one more as a reporter because I'm talking about Bob. But it was my experience, so they overlap. But that's my supporting point. That's one supporting point, and that's my evidence. And I might want 2 or 3 supporting points, generally no more than 3 supporting points in a presentation. Because there's cerebral power in 3. 2 is not enough, 3 is perfect, 4 is one too many. That's the way your brain works. So for your next assignment, your next homework, come up with at least 1 supporting point and some evidence that you can provide here at your stage on January 7th. And then you've got the framework of a really powerful sales presentation. Now this isn't a format you need to use in all your presentations. This is a format that works. That's all this is. So, you don't have to worry about being stressed when you come up here and speak at your stage that you're following Steve's rules. I didn't make this stuff up. These are not my rules. This is a way that works. And what you do with speaking is find the rules, learn the rules, put them all together, and then figure out how you can creatively break them to make yourself different from everybody else. The ineffective speakers are the ones that break every single rule because they don't know what they are. But effective speakers know the rules and break them selectively and strategically to make themselves stand out. Does that help you? So go to www.lowellworkshops.com and sign up for my 8-week course starting February 8th. It's called Real Speaking, and I'll show you how to bring your story to life because your story could change lives. Thank you very much.